Hello again, friends and loyal Wolfpack members. Chaos Wolf here, and welcome back to Elite Dangerous Horizons. Now, what we are going to be having a look at right now is this little ship in front of us. Well, I say little, it's not actually that little. We are having a look at the Vulture. Now, I did do a video on this a while back, basically how I go and how I like to outfit my Vulture. Although back then things were a little bit different and I ran the ship very differently to how I run it now. I then went and moved on to doing an A-rated review of this ship, and again things were a little bit different and it was like mainly using fixed weapons and so on. But I wanted to show you a few ways of outfitting this ship, because this ship does kind of offer some difficulties and hurdles to overcome when it comes to outfitting the ship, mainly because of mainly because of this, the 4A power plant. This ship, which can house large weapons, runs on the same power plant as a Cobra, so it's really not ideal, and it is a very limiting factor in how you want to outfit this ship. I mean, as we can see at the moment, obviously I've got the military grade composites, and I've pretty much A-rated most of this ship. I've not got the best life support, nor got the best sensors. Sometimes I would like to try and get more life support out of this, but in this case I literally cannot squeeze much more power out of this ship. Instead of the normal shield generators, I've actually gone and got a bi-weave shield generator. Now, the reason I've gone for this is it uses a lot less power than the standard A5 shield generator. I mean, I'm not sure if we've got one available in this system. Yes, we do here. As you can see, it takes us up to 17.29 megawatts. There, it's 1.04 megawatts more power to use an A5 shield generator. So that's not ideal, and that takes us way above what is currently able to be used, because at the moment, like I said, I've pretty much run this ship to the wire with power. As you can see, our current available power is 15.6, but I've taken it to 16.25, and that is our maximum usable power before things go seriously wrong and we have to start making massive cutbacks in other areas. We've got a frameshift drive interdictor. I've gone for an A2 just because I like the extra oomph that this can give us. And then for the other two at the bottom, I've just put hull reinforcement packages. I mean, if you wish, you can actually swap this out for a planetary vehicle hangar and then downgrade the frameshift drive interdictor to one of the class 1 slots. But let's have a look at the hard points, because this is another limiting factor. That small power plant really does limit what weapons we can have on this ship. Because currently I've got 2 pulse lasers, I've got 2 chaff launchers, just because I really like to spam chaff in this ship as much as I can to try and avoid getting hit, because we do have the weaker shields. I mean, the shields do recharge a lot faster, but they also do take a greater toll on our systems capacitor. And then we've also got a kill warrant scanner, because this is pretty much my bounty hunting build. So, like I said, this is how we have this set up. If we go and exit from here, now looking at the modules, you'll see that I have 3 priorities, although in this particular case, we only really need 2. Those that we need in combat and those that we don't. Usually I have 3, and the most important one is priority group 1, and that's usually for when things go horribly wrong and you really need to get out of there. So it's the thrusters, the frameshift drive, life support, and so on. But here this is proving a little bit of an issue, because we've got so little power, there's not really a lot we can do with it. So as long as you turn off things like your cargo hatch and have your frameshift drive interdictor set to whichever class priority group you want to turn off when you pull your weapons out, you should be fine with this set. A lot of people will not really like this setup for the simple fact that it uses a pair of pulse lasers. Now, these pulse lasers will do a lot of damage, but mainly to internal modules such as the power plant. It doesn't do all that much damage against the hull, but you can get a good amount of sustained fire out of them before you have to wait for your capacitor to recharge. You can actually keep these firing constantly for a good length of time. But you can, if you wish, go and upgrade these to something a little beefier. The only downside to this is that we're going to have to make some serious sacrifices in other aspects of the ship. I mean, like we can see here, I've got the best thrusters. But if we want to go and run better weapons, we're going to have to go and downgrade our thrusters. We may even have to go and downgrade other parts of the ship as well. But we'll have to go and see how that works. So let's go and have a look at this, shall we? If we downgrade the thrusters to class descending, first of all, and we go to 5D thrusters. Now, with class A thrusters, this ship is extremely responsive, nimble, and maneuverable. With class D thrusters, it still has a decent amount of maneuverability, but it does drift a bit more. It's not quite as responsive, and it can be noticeable, especially when landing. But now what we can go and do is we can go and change these over to a pair of beam lasers if we want. And now that we have a pair of beam lasers, our damage potential goes up massively. But there's a downside to this, there's a catch as well. And that is the fact that we do have a fairly good power distributor for this size of ship. We have a 5A power distributor. But even with a 5A power distributor, these beam lasers will deplete the capacitor extremely quickly. So you go from having sustained damage over a longer period of time to having very quick burst damage, where you've then got to wait for your capacitor to charge a lot more frequently. But this will do more damage to hulls, it will do more damage to internal components, so it really depends on how you want to play this. And if we go and exit here as well, you can see that just from downgrading the thrusters, we can have the same thing where it's only the frameshift drive interdictor which gets shut off. So there is nothing we need to stress about there at all. And that's really quite a nice little thing. I mean, we can go and add interesting more weapons on there as well if we go to the hard points even. We could go and, if we go back to class descending, add a plasma accelerator. But the problem with this is it will take us above our maximum power usage, so we're going to have to drop the other weapon down to a pulse laser. I think we might possibly be able to get away with a burst laser, but we're going to have to cut out a few more things in the ship. Okay, seems I was wrong. I went and did a bit of checking, and it turns out that you can quite happily have a plasma accelerator and a burst laser and still be able to run this ship with the same amount of internals. So just with the D5 thrusters, we are able to run the plasma accelerator and the burst. The downside to having this is that we're going to have some more fire groups. So we're going to have one fire group for the burst laser and the plasma accelerator on different buttons even, and we're going to have another fire group for the kill warrant scanner and the burst laser, just so we can take things down and still scan things at the same time. So it does make the ship a little bit more complicated, and some people don't like this because of the off-center or the lack of symmetry between the ship. They like to have the same thing on both sides. I don't have a problem with it, but I do have to have my plasma weapon over on the left-hand side of the ship, left-hand side from where I would be sitting, just because I like it to match up with the holographic displays of which side the ammo counter's on. Now, there are other ways of running this ship as well, because this is pretty much one of my favourite ways of running this ship. But there are other ways of running the ship. This is basically how I like to run bounty hunting. When we end up in conflict zones, I do like to run this ship completely differently. Well, not completely differently, but I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so this is how I like to run my ship for conflict zones. Still, everything's pretty much the same until we get to the shield generator. I've gone for a 5A shield generator. We've still got the 4A shield cell bank, but we've ditched the frameshift drive interdictor for another hull reinforcement package, because when you're in a conflict zone you don't need to be interdicting anybody. Now, as you may have noticed, we've gone back to the pulse lasers. Now this is a deliberate decision, because we need to free up some more power in order to run the beefier shield. Now, why am I going for a beefier shield? Well, when you're out bounty hunting, you can choose when you are in engagements and when you're not. So you can sit around and have your shield recharging, and then you can then decide to go in and jump into another combat. Not quite so much in a conflict zone, because there are enemies all around you, and it is them that will decide when you fight and when you don't. So it's always nicer to have a much beefier shield. And on top of that, we still have, well, not still have, I've swapped out the kill warrant scanner for a A-rated shield booster. Now that's going to be giving us a lot more power to our shields. If I am correct, we go up from 315 megajoules of shield strength to 465. And that is no small increase in shield strength. So that is really going to help you stay alive in conflict zones. I mean, yes, we do have a lower thrusters, but when you go into conflict zones, you don't generally go in by yourself. You generally go in with a wing. At least that's what I would recommend to do. And that's usually what I do. So you can cover for each other, so the lower maneuverability isn't as much of an issue. I mean, yes, you're also going to have a lower top speed, so if you need to get out of there, then it is going to be a bit more of an issue, with you being mass locked potentially. But if that's the case, just target a close by system, and then you can jump out without mass interfering with your frameshift drive. It's not really a big issue, and like I said, I have used this, and I do find that it keeps you alive for a lot longer. The military grade composites, in conjunction with the hull reinforcement packages, do keep you alive for a lot longer. I mean, I have known people that even go without shields altogether and will just go with full hull reinforcement packages. And if that's the case, then all bets are off and you can put whatever the hell you want in the ship because your shields aren't taking up the majority of your power. But I'm not convinced with the Vulture being a good hull tanking ship. Then again, I don't really feel confident in a ship without any shields. Anyway, that red ring around my ship on the holographics really worries me. But anyway, this is a few ways of how you can go and outfit a Vulture. There's not too much diversity with how you can actually go and outfit it as yet. But coming in 2.1, we are going to be getting large multi-cannons, which is going to really shake up the way this ship can be outfitted, and I will be making a video on that. But until then, guys, I really do hope you've enjoyed the video. I've been Commander Chaos Wolf, you guys have been epic, I will see you soon. Until then, Commanders, keep flying and stay shining.